Yeah, so for previous meetings minutes, any comments or changes? Seeing none, do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes.
Motion by Alderman Tierney. Do we have a second? Second by John. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Move on to item 3, public comments and appearances. Do we have any public comments or appearances? Yeah, seeing there's no one here, I don't think we're going to have any. Move on to item 4, old business. I don't think there's any old business tonight. So item 5, new business. Consideration and possible action on bids for the 2024 street improvements, roadway and utility reconstruction project. So,
All right, well, I'll essentially cut to the chase here that 3 bids, and we consistently get these bidders, so I'm grateful. PTS has been the winner 3 years in a row. They did a great job last year. Their bid is we're under our budgeted amount. So I would just recommend that we award the job to PTS.
all right, any questions or comments?
I'll make the motion to approve so we can discuss it.
All right, we got a motion by Alderman Sigwart. We have a second. Second by Alderman Tierney. Any discussion on the motion?
As Roger and Rob have gotten to know, I like to study the bid tabs. And I will say that this is possibly the best bid tab I've seen as far as in the city's favor. I mean, it's almost $250,000 under estimate. $243,722 under the engineer's estimate. The engineer had only 3 items of which they were low on, okay? Of the 85 bid items, PTS was low on 43 of the 85, so more than 50% of the items they were low on. And they won all 3, or I should say all 4. They won the first item for the roadway work. They won the storm sewer, they won the water main, and they won the sanitary sewer. Highly unusual that the low contractor would be low on all phases of the work, which tells us pretty point blank, it's a balanced bid. Okay?
I agree.
And I think, I don't know that one of these years, Grimmer's gonna have a bad year. But this shows, how many years have they done it? Like 7 years or more?
In a row, I mean,
Have they been our engineers?
essentially, they've been our engineer on every major street project we've had, with the exception like Highway 33 and Wisconsin Street and maybe 1 or 2 others. But yeah, they've done almost all our street projects.
And when you first look at their bids, it looks like maybe they wouldn't have to do as many bid items as they do. But I got to tell you, it really makes them think. You know, for example, you pay for water main right through the fittings, right through the valves, okay, for length, okay? And you can see the way they bid it, they know they're getting paid for it. And so their fittings and valves and connections are all really reasonable. So I'm extremely pleased, not just with the engineering and estimating, but with the time that they put in on their bid. Is Denny Ron going to be their excavator again?
Probably.
I mean, it looked like Denny Ron's bids worked him so many times, okay? But I'm very pleased overall.
I mean, I'll just want to echo your statement on Gremmers. I mean, we're not here to approve them, but I was involved with the tail end of the 22 project and, of course, the 23 project last year. Total change orders on a job are like almost nil.
Hardly any.
Yeah, I mean, so they put a complete set of drawings together and easy to understand, easy, when you get bids that are grouped together like that, that means everyone understands the plans and specs and,
And your record drawings are nice and clean. They're not
Right, yeah.
287 feet instead of 237 feet, like things like that. It's just really good.
Yeah, no, the bids are really tight. I mean, I like to think that, the reason that we get quality bidders too is because it's a good set of plans. I think contractors know this is a good place to work too. And so, yeah, they know what to expect because, yeah, we don't get, the contractors aren't even trying to nickel and dime us.
No.
So we just, yeah.
yeah.
I hope we still continue to get 3 bidders, but we do, yeah, we've had really good success with PTS and a ton of good feedback from residents. So minus one dump truck, but anyhow, other than that, really, really positive. And, yeah, we'll execute the contracts and get a pre-construction meeting going. I anticipate we'll probably have the sewer lining done first, and as Roger indicates in his memo, we'll not only line the sewers on the streets that we have planned for this year, we also have a few streets that we have slated for our next year project. So next year's project won't have any sewer lining in it, at least on the project, unless for some reason we decide to, include it elsewhere. Because we've lined all the sewers in the neighborhood south of where we're doing, because a few years ago we changed we had to shift and we changed the projects we were gonna do in that year. But in any case, these are streets that really need the work, and I'm real excited to get it done. And PTS, yeah, they finished the project last year, I think in July,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. We're actually
land-
paving in hot weather.
And the landscaping was 100% better, so we're looking forward to
The
the
best thing
project.
about it is it's in the 1st district instead of the 7th. I don't know, I think 5 out of the last 7 years have been in the 7th district. Ever since Tice Street in front of my house.
Yeah.
All right. Good job.
Any more questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll hold the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So move on to item C under new business, item B under new business. Consideration and possible action on awarding the emergency generator installation contract for the water filtration plant.
Everyone should have an updated.
Oh, you need a microphone.
Thank you. Everyone should have an updated memo showing the bids. Apologize for not getting in there with the original memo, but we had to change the bid date because we had some questions on the plans and specs, and but we wanted to make sure we got it in at tonight's meeting. So we did get 4 bids. I'm not sure what the number 4 bidder was seeing that the first 3 didn't see. But I think they're an outlier. I look at the 3 lowest bidders, and they're grouped within 10% of each other. So I feel like they had a good understanding of the plans and specs. And with that tight grouping, engineer's estimate was $217,000. So that's less than 1.5% of the low bid. So that's all right there. We're well below, almost $200,000 below what we have allocated for this generator job and the wastewater generator job between, if you recall, this is largely funded with a grant that Bob Harris acquired from Economic Development Agency of the federal government. So all that said, it's all positive. We want to get this generator awarded and get them constructed. And J. Miller is also the electrical contractor for the water upgrade process. So that's good. But so what has to happen for the water upgrade project to go is this generator needs to be installed and running, because then when We Energy cuts off our secondary supply, this becomes truly our emergency supply. So if anything during construction, if we have any disrupts, we have power. So we don't want to get into the water plant upgrades until this is done. So the generator itself, if you recall, you awarded it last year, roughly around this time. That's due to be delivered mid-May. So ideally, we'll get this contractor started with some electrical work, the concrete pad to pour, essentially have all that work done, hopefully by mid-May. So when the generator comes, they plop it on the pad, run through startup procedures, and knock on wood, everything's running well.
We did move it north of the plant and outside, right?
Yes.
That was really well done, the way that the city and the contractor handled it. Sorry about that. I thought that was handled really well because, once people realized that it was an emergency generator, it wouldn't be running all the time. I know the thought of trying to keep it quiet was good, but I think this is even much better and cheaper. Also lowered the profile of the building and made the people on the second floor of the high-rise a lot happier.
Yeah, surprising for me, and maybe not surprising if I think about it, but yeah, people rather have their views than the noise.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, does that thing kick in automatically if the power goes down, or does somebody have to start it? Okay, that's good. Good.
That's why they're so expensive. They got that dang transfer switch, which is really expensive.
And this plant has two transfer switches because you got plant 1, plant 2, and they're on their own power. So anyway, our recommendation is to award the contract to J. Miller Electric.
All right, do we have any motions?
I'll make a motion to award the contract to the low bidder, J. Miller Electric.
So we have motion by Alderman Tierney. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Haley. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll move on to 5C, consideration and possible action for citywide stormwater management plan update task order with Stantec under the master services agreement.
I'll do a quick lead in here for what it's worth. Yeah, back in, and I think it goes all the way back to like 2003, we received a non-point source planning grant that we used to create our first stormwater ordinance. And, fast forward, 15 years since the, it was then Bonastro plan was completed. We're back to updated in accordance with some of the changes that are to the state code and, or the DNR code. And real excited. This is our second try at it. So I'll be humble about it and say it was the same guy writing it. It was Aaron both times. I was going to say when I wrote it, it failed, but when Roger wrote it, it passed. But it was really Aaron Volkening helping us out from Stantec. And I think we were the number one, had the highest point total of all the grants this year in the state because we had learned our lesson. I think we had missed it by half a point 2 years ago. So I'm super excited to get this updated, and Roger's doing a great job on it. So, sorry. Go ahead, Roger.
All right, so just to follow up, so this will essentially rewrite our stormwater ordinances, and it's coming at a good time, more coincidentally than planned, because, with zoning code rewrite and everything, this should mesh right in with that. It's a 50-50 grant, although to help get it awarded, we're paying 52% and DNR 48. So,
That's how we got the highest point total in the state.
yep.
sacrifice 2%.
So we did budget our share, and if, I don't know if you recall that during the budgeting process and when we put the grant in, that, which again, that gives us more points. So I think we're all ready to go with this. We budgeted for the project, we had the grant, DNR gave us the go-ahead to get our consultant under contract, and we'd like to get this project moving. So, and I should point out, Stantec is doing this work underneath an existing contract they have for us. So, on that end, I didn't run it back through legal review or anything like that. It's been checked.
All right, do we have any questions or discussion?
Just a quick question on, when I was looking through over this, and I have no problem with it, but does some of this, a lot of what they're going to be doing kind of involve reviewing what we've already got out there and tweaking it somewhat to bring it more into alliance with any new rules and regulations?
I mean, yes, to look at what we have, but I think it's going to be more than a tweak. I mean, they're not going to throw out everything we've done, but there's been some pretty big changes in the DNR requirements over the last 20 years that we need to catch up with.
Okay.
And the bulk of the cost is in the modeling, so they'll be remodeling the entire system.
Then we go. Yeah, the bulk of the cost is in the modeling, so we can get it approved, but then we go out and sample to make sure we're even close. Right? I mean, we do sample a share of our outfalls, right, Roger?
Well, every year we do illicit discharge monitoring, so that tests it for illicit discharges, which would be point sources of pollution. The modeling that they do is, I don't think typically it's confirmed by actual water quality testing. Roger, is that correct? Microphone.
The model itself does an annual estimate of how much load you're polluting. So any sampling you'd have to do, then you'd have to set up sort of like a sampler like we have at the wastewater plant. You'd have to set up a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365 sampler and sample through the whole year to get that event. So just doing sampling during a storm event or a dry event is not going to get you a representative sample.
So you're relying on the model, which is, yeah.
All right, do we have any other questions, comments, motions?
One other comment. Does Stantec do a good job of when they send in an invoice, itemizing their invoices, Rob, so they're easy to follow? They do it. I mean, this is really it's really an hourly contract not to exceed, right? I mean,
Yeah.
right, which is, I still think is the best way to go on stormwater because it's, I would never imagine we'd be spending $100,000 here, but we are. Okay. Just so what they're giving you to review is in a format that.
No, we can make sure that we get that.
No, I could say in the last year and a half anyways, there's been no issues with their invoices. They're pretty easy to follow, pretty easy to read, they're timely. They're pretty good at invoicing monthly and not, 8 months later.
And I'll just add on this that we are in sore need of an update to our erosion control ordinance as well, because what we have today is very minimal, and it's something that there's not a lot of teeth or anything there to really hold any contractor or developer to in order to ensure that they're, be operating under good practice for avoiding erosion control. So it's good to see that getting a rewrite. I can think of one in particular downtown.
I would comment on Prairie's Edge. I've never seen a worse construction site than what we had at Prairie's Edge. It was just a nightmare, okay? I mean, I realize there are a lot of circumstantial things that happened, right?
Yeah.
But good gravy, it was just a disaster.
I can say worked with Prairie's Edge and their erosion control. Well, they were doing construction last winter, if you remember. So even starting from there, and quite a few calls, emails, and whatnot. And the good thing I to start working on our annual report for TMDL, so all that stuff gets reported in the DNR also. But I will say the one thing that the site, I'll say the site looked like hell. But really, if you looked at what was leaving the site, it was actually very little.
And part of it is, the developer, as opposed to most of our developments, just you have a developer, he develops, and then he's done. This developer has sold off how many parcels? I mean, at least the CBRF. But there's another, hasn't he sold off one other, or
I think he's held on to the rest.
the rest? Okay. Okay.
Well, that's a concrete slab, so that doesn't get a lot of erosion now.
Yeah.
Well, I will move to accept, to approve the staff's recommendation.
Okay, we got a
On this.
motion by Alderman Tierney. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Haley. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I believe that moves us to item 6, project updates.
Okay. I don't know if there's anything in particular. Otherwise, I can quickly go through them. Well, we had a lot of snow in January, but things have calmed down, and so we're getting out with our tree pruning, as John Crane has noted. They've finished the fencing around the ball diamond. They're continuing to work on the Colbach Park shelter improvements, which I think is a real testimony to the skill of our employees between the streets department and parks department. They are extremely talented at doing, our own remodels on these buildings and really making major improvements. So, we'll get the pickleball courts color coded in spring and have a good building there too for restrooms and water and shelter. So the Birchwood Hills invasive management, so that's been completed for the season. Yeah, if you have any opportunity to go out there and see the difference in what it looks like, you can actually walk through the woods now. It's not just one big thicket of invasive species. So those have been mowed down and cleared out, and they'll be doing some additional spraying to keep that down. And so it's really a big improvement. We just met this past week with American Bird Conservancy, so that's headed by locally by Sean Graff, if you remember him from OWLT, and they're partnered with Glacierland and Stantec, who will be performing additional invasive removal in the area that's outlined in red on your map in front of you of Upper Lake Park. So that's a one of the worst areas for invasive species. So that'll be coming out. They're going to be doing some not controlled burns, but they'll be burning the brush rather than chipping most of it. So the fire department's aware of that. But that'll take just about a week. Then they'll be doing more herbicide treatments in April and May, and then coming back next year to do more treatments and plant trees. So, again, yes, that's all. Yep. So ultimately, this should better hold the soil on this area too. So this is all part of this, valley, this large effort to improve the ecology of Valley Creek. So then there's a photo of the guys doing, so there's our new spider. Maybe I should plug in here. I'll plug in. Just, can you give me the, is it okay if I just plug in? Whoops, it should work. Is it sitting here? Sorry. Thank you, Roger. What's that?
If you needed a phone, that was in the job description.
Is this gonna be one of these where it doesn't, I've gotta move it over? What's that? Oh. Oh, now my screen just did something. I'm in here. Oh, good. All right. Okay. All right. So yeah, there's our new spider lift, which is essentially replacing our bucket truck and reaches higher and can get into much smaller areas. So we use it both on the street and off the street. And there's the new turf field and the new fencing. That concession stand is going to get a facelift this spring. And there's our guys working in the the renovated park shelter.
It's cold back.
Kolbach, yes, yep. And here is, here's Birchwood Hills. So the area outlined in red is the area, actually, I think, is it red? I'd have to go back to the report. I think it might be red and white. I think they're gonna come back and get the yellow area where we had taken down several hazard trees. And then this area in the middle here, I think they're gonna be doing a prairie burn coming up in the future. I think they've done one already and they'll be doing another one soon. Water plant upgrade, contracts have been executed. We're reviewing shop drawings and hope for groundbreaking in May. Wastewater plant upgrade is pretty similar time schedule. We'll keep everyone updated on that. Alley project is currently out for bid, so we've got 3 alleys. One we've got the T alley north of Prospect and just west of Lakeview, and we have the alley essentially across from the high school off of Webster Street between Webster and Montgomery, and then one that's south between Sherman and Madison. Did I have that right? Yeah. Okay, down here on the kind of the central part of the city. Road improvement project, we covered the bike oh,
All the alleys will be concrete?
yes. Yep. Bike and pedestrian plan, we actually, we had three firms submit for proposals for the bike and pedestrian plans. We ranked them in order, and we were unanimous on our top candidate, which was Tool Design, and interviewed them today to confirm that we wanted to go ahead and recommend them to the DOT, which we've done. And so we'll be following the DOT process, which means scoping and negotiating a contract because it's the QBS process. And so ultimately, once the DOT approves all that, we'll bring it back to this committee, hopefully in April, to move forward with our bike and pedestrian plan. Set up a bike and pedestrian committee, and I'll know more once we scope it. So we created a RFP that included what we want to see in it, but the scope will provide more detail. We had a pretty serious water main break down at the Park and Rec building on last week, Monday. But our water utility and Roger got right on it, but it resulted in quite a bit of water getting into the basement of the building. Fortunately, it didn't cause any damage. It got into some old abandoned ductwork, so thank goodness it wasn't any of the existing ductwork. So again, we didn't have any damage, but it could have been a lot worse because again, it was a big break, and our operators noticed it on the towers right away. But because the water service, which comes from Webster Street and goes down to this building, the line that enters the building is under mature arborvitaes, tall fence, the concrete deck of the pool, and a air conditioning compressor. We decided to go trenchless. So all the credit to Roger. He set everything up with a local plumber who came in within a day, finished the project in 2 days, and we had the water back on at the building. And I had never worked with them before. I guess I didn't ask you. Did you?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, coincidentally, they had just sent me kind of a marketing email like 2 days earlier for lead service replacement, so this was cast iron, or ductile iron, but
Along those lines, they bought that drill rig so that they could do lead service replacement, so it came in handy for this job, even though it wasn't lead service.
So they did a 4-inch lateral with that?
yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, that's about the limit that they could do with that piece of equipment too, I would think. It's quite a pushing a 4-inch pipe through. Or pulling it, however they went. The new 6-inch service main, that's something for a future project to go all the way from Webster down to the building?
Yeah, we've experienced 3 breaks in like the last 4 years on that. And just with this one being such a big break and the effect it has, the effect it could have on the pool and on the building, and it really shuts down programs. And I think we'd rather I'd like to be proactive about it and just get it replaced. So we're looking at different options. There's only 2 services. It's 640 feet, but there's only 2 services that come off of it. So we're looking at possibly even lining it. I don't know if that's an option. We've never done that, but so we're going to look at or possibly directional drilling or simple trench and lay.
So it is currently 6-inch down to there?
It's 6 inches going from, yeah, so that's another thing.
Okay.
We could maybe go with a 4-inch. I don't know.
Or say, if you ran 6-inch all the way into the building, you could fill the pool in half the time.
Yeah, I suppose that's
Or
true.
at that point, a break would overwhelm the drain in the floor too.
Yeah. Coincidentally, they fill the pool off a fire hydrant with a hose.
Oh,
so-
okay.
Yeah, well, that's true. So that is technically off the 6-inch, so maybe it'll affect our decision. But we're looking into it.
Yeah.
That,
Yes.
yes,
So is there a hydrant at the end down there?
Yes.
Oh, then you'd need to almost stay with the 6-inch.
yeah. Yeah, defeat it. I mean, and the other thing with the school slope there, having a bunch of water at the toe of that slope from another break is probably not ideal.
Well,
Right, 'cause
the hill's still seeping enough. So.
Right, because the sanitary sewer runs down the driveway as well, and so it's just a little tight for digging. So I'm hoping we can do it without digging, but do what we have to do. Spring Street Interceptor, we've been working with Strand on, this is the interceptor that goes from First Avenue, right? First Avenue down to Spring Street and then bends in the right of way for I could even. Huh? Right, the We Energies ATC easement that's behind the old Modern Equipment Building. So we're working on that, and since we are going in that area, we've long wanted to get an off-street trail through there for the for bikes, and so we are looking to make this eventually part of the interurban trail, but we'll see how it goes with working with Union Pacific.
Yes, you haven't figured out how they're letting you cross the railroad yet.
Huh?
You haven't figured out how they're letting you cross the railroad yet.
We're saving the hard part for the end.
I'm actually working on writing a request for Office of Commissioner of Railroads right now for another community, trying to get a crossing.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
And in private development, Hidden Hills, Belinsky is telling us that they plan on developing their north phase this summer. Highland Point will work on their phase 2. We just had final plat approval for that, I think at our last council meeting. That's a 3-phase project. And then Prairie's Edge, of course, they're working on their land development. And then Thursday at Plan Commission, the concept approval will be reviewed for what we call the South Shannon Farm, which is being proposed by Cindy Schaefer Development. So does everybody know the area, all the areas that I'm talking about? Okay. Or we don't have, we need to have more pictures. I don't know. Yeah. You're right.
Could you go back to Prairie's Edge for a minute?
Sure.
Says it has completed their land development.
So
All platted, you mean?
all the infrastructure is in. Yeah, so I'm saying all the sewer, we don't have any more sewer, water, or even, well, we're not, it's private streets, so,
So essentially, they're coming to us now with their commercial buildings and their condos, so I'm looking at site plans for that, I guess, is our review right now.
so and with the Valley Creek corridor, amongst the many grants that we've been fortunate enough to get, is that the first one we got was the Fund for Lake Michigan. That's a $150,000 grant, so Stantec provided us with a first draft of it, and we reviewed that, and the deadline for completion, and that is the end of this year. So we received a 1-year extension on our planning because it's had to pivot a little bit because of all the other grants we've been getting, so we've been kind of changing the use for that money. Marina, biggest thing besides, well, you can see they putting in a new dockside pump out is really just, fortunately, it's kind of the status quo down there. They're getting plenty of reservations for the year and filling up and creating a waiting list. So, and then as Lisa points out here, they froze for the first time in a long time within the marina. And
I kind of liked that part. I didn't know what an ice seeder is, so I looked them up and got
okay,
to watch
yeah.
videos of them working. So.
They always have the best photos of all the reports. Christmas decorations, we're going to add some Christmas decorations on Grand Avenue next year. That was pointed out by one of our shop owners on Grand Avenue that we were lacking Christmas spirit. So to prove them wrong, we ordered 8 more wreaths, so we'll be putting those up next year. But there's a similar to the ones that we already have on Franklin Street. Sewer cleaning, we're not only cleaning what we typically clean, but we're doing another 8.6 miles by the additional televising work that we're conducting this year. We spent about half our budget on all the snow events in January, but February's been kind of easy on us, and if we can make it through March, maybe we'll be under budget overall. But all in all, I think we had about 120 hours of overtime, or no, I think 120 hours of paid overtime, and then about the same in time taken as comp time. But they were pretty busy for a while.
Basically, all you had to do was drive to a different village or city to see how good our streets were. I mean, that was a nasty storm to handle, okay? And I thought our guys really got at it early, you know, pre-soaking or whatever you call that,
Yeah.
pre-wetting or,
Yep.
you know, all that helped because a lot of places they couldn't get it off the pavement. Period.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And-
LL was a living nightmare. I mean, you couldn't even drive it. But yeah, I thought that they should be recognized for that. It was really well coordinated.
And yeah, and I can't say that I've studied it in depth, but when I first got here, we were using like 2,000 tons of salt on our streets, and then we brought it down to like probably an average of like 1,200. I think the first thing I pointed out is why are we using so much more than like Grafton or Cedarburg? And so we dialed it down from like 2,000 to 1,200, and now as you can see from just all the snow we had in January, you only use 297 tons of salt. So, I mean, if that's half our budget and we wind up with 600 tons, we're still using like half of what we used to just not too many years ago. Dan's report is always very comprehensive, but doesn't make for great reading. So we have our construction zone signs up that we're required to have for our Clean Water Fund loan, and there's the EDA sign that we're required to have for the generator, and again, the bill money is paying for the Clean Water Fund loan, right? Yeah. So all our signage is up. I think a number of you were at Todd's retirement party. It was a cause for celebration. There's the last 5 water superintendents in a photo there. That was pretty cool. We had some water main breaks up on Sunrise Drive in January. In fact, we were working on it, I think, on the day of the interviews for the administrator candidates. But otherwise, knock on wood, not super busy with water main breaks. Other than that, just updates on, what they're doing down there. And I guess that's it. So, I don't know, any questions?
About the brakes on Sunrise? Mm-hmm. Isn't that something new? I mean, have we had other problems out there?
We have, not really. I want to say, maybe you remember it. I want to say we just have a history of like 1 or 2 breaks there. So if we zero in on it and we put on our water mains and then we put on our brakes. Unless these are the ones we just had. Yeah, so here's the ones we just had. And then this one here, yeah, okay. Also just had. So 2 here, yeah. So these are the new ones, these are the old ones.
That's ductile there, Rob, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think, so when we resurfaced Sunrise Drive, it was kind of an emergency resurface. It just kind of fell apart on us one winter, so we just resurfaced it. think if we hadn't done that, we probably would have included with when we did Crestview. So now we'll probably wind up catching it when we do Hales Trail. But that's currently not in our 5-year plan. But a few more water main breaks and maybe it will, but our, whoops, let me take our, I have meters, sorry.
That's
Meters instead of mains.
some 50-year-old main, isn't it, Rob?
Yeah, well, I think that subdivision is 1960s, so,
60 year.
right, it's 60-year-old main, yeah. Why am I, here we go. So yeah, so this is the map we look at when we decide where we're gonna target our water main replacement for the year, and it does kind of pop out at you, so that's why we've got, in our 5-year plan, we have this area, which is probably our highest density, this area, and this area, so. But yeah, you can see over here, we're starting to get a cluster too.
That's pretty old stuff, too.
Yeah,
That's pretty old, too, right?
and,
Unless we've replaced.
yeah, what we find is, like the 60-year-old ductile iron main sometimes holds up worse than 80-year-old cast iron.
Right.
So, or even older than that.
Yeah, unfortunately, the lead mains were the best quality stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna keep busy in the water utility between the $20 million upgrade and replacement of all the lead services and upgrade of all the meters and trying to keep up with water main replacement. I would say the next 10 years are gonna be awfully busy. But we've got good staff.
One question about the meter changeout. I saw that somewhere along the way, it was in our newsletter, we asked people to respond that hadn't responded to their changeout letter.
Okay,
That going pretty much as planned?
microphone.
No, I think roughly half the people respond, half don't, and then it's,
It's like a half-life. Next
then
time
you
you
send
get
a,
half again.
send a letter, send a second letter, send a third letter, and then, that's, I guess, where we could help with admin staff then at that point and start calling people or, I mean, technically PSC would allow us to shut people off at that point in time, but
Yeah.
that's not a path I think we'll be going down.
So that's all I have. I don't know if there's any questions.
All right, if there's no questions. Guess we'll move on to item 7, forthcoming events. Do we have any forthcoming events?
Well, we'll be bringing the alley bid opening next meeting, and also I'm planning on the sidewalk bid opening next meeting, so.
Okay.
And something that didn't make my report, but DOT just sent out a letter saying that we need to inventory all of our small bridges, so 20 feet and less in span,
And over 6 feet.
and culverts over 6 feet, or 6 feet and bigger. So fortunately for us, the county will contract somebody. So we have to inventory them, and then we have to inspect them. So the county will contract the inspecting.
All right. We have any other forthcoming events? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 8, adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Motion by Alderman Sigwart. Looking for a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Haley. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.